Picture this scene. You get home from work Friday evening and sit down to dinner with your family. While having dinner, your 12-year-old son, Michael, advises you that over the last week of school, the teacher and the guidance counselor have been talking to the class about sexuality, gender, and transitioning. He claims that after class they called him in for a one on one discussion, and now he believes he's really a girl and wants you to start calling him Michelle. You tell him that's not going to happen, and you intend to go talk to the school administrators next week about what they're teaching in class. The following day, you get home from work. There are two police officers and a Child Protective Services staff member at your home waiting for you. You've just been advised that you have broken current child protective laws. You will be taken to jail. Your child is going to be removed from the home and placed into foster care. This may sound pretty far-fetched, but the reality is it is closer than you think. Join me in this episode of Office of the Patriot where I discuss the government's plans to use the law to indoctrinate and transition your children with or without your consent. Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. In this office, I try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left. If you are a subscriber, thank you for your continued viewership. It is appreciated. If you are a returning viewer, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future presentations. And if you are a first-time visitor to my channel, well, congratulations on finding it. I hope you find the content worth coming back for. My name is Myron Ybarra, and I'm your host. In virtually every culture in the world, children are considered the most precious resource we have. In the United States, we have laws dedicated specifically to protect children. They're referred to as juvenile justice laws. This category of law is different than most other law in that it weighs a child's well-being heavily when addressing all matters that involve children. And this makes sense. Children don't have the wisdom to understand how decisions they make will affect them later in life. They rely on their parents to guide them through the decision-making process or to make the decisions for them. If a 2-year-old opens the refrigerator and pulls out a cupcake for dinner, the parent is likely going to take the cupcake away and have them wait for dinner. The child's probably going to be upset, but parents don't use the metric of a child being upset as the basis for allowing them to have the cupcake. Parents look at the ramifications of allowing the child to have the cupcake prior to dinner. Eating the cupcake before dinner usually results in the lack of willingness to eat dinner after eating the cupcake, and maybe an upset tummy that parents will have to deal with in the middle of the night. So the parent will have the child eat dinner first, and if they are still wanting the cupcake after dinner, then they may be allowed to have it. Why then are we in a place where children are not only granted autonomy and power to determine what gender they want to be, but parents that are responsible for them may also be held liable if they don't acquiesce to the child's desire to transition to get the cupcake? The reason's pretty obvious to most Americans. It boils down to the left's obsession for the destruction of the nuclear family. Taking parents out of the equation when it comes to life-altering decisions and deferring to the state is the absolute dream of progressive liberal Democrats, and they are working hard to make this a reality. In California, Democrats in the House have moved legislation forward that would allow therapists to remove custody from parents who do not affirm a child's chosen gender identity. Further, California courts are empowered to take temporary jurisdiction of children who arrive in California from out of state in search of transitional treatment options. However, not all is lost in California. There is a bill that was recently introduced by 2 Republican assemblymen that would require all schools to notify parents if their child identifies as transgender. Score 1 for the parents. However, let's look at this from another tack. Let's say a 12-year-old boy, we'll use Michael again. Michael goes into a doctor's office without his parents and requests treatment for a rash that's on his back. Can the doctor provide services to Michael and make a demand for payment? Unless the services that are rendered are considered emergency services, the answer is almost always no. And that's because a child cannot enter into a contract of their own volition. Now, there are some narrow scope exceptions to this rule, but the primary exception actually stems from elder law. It's referred to as legal capacity. According to the DOJ's Elder Justice Initiative Resource Guide, legal capacity is an individual's ability to undertake and complete a specific task and/or to make a particular situational decision which is recognized by law. It's the essence of informed consent. And who determines legal capacity? It's the courts. It's not the sixth grade trans teacher or the mask-wearing pro-LGBTQ+ guidance counselor. The courts use legal capacity as the primary metric to determine a minor's request for emancipation. And according to Cornell Law's Wex Law website, emancipation is a mechanism through which eligible minors are granted some or all of the rights and statuses adults hold. The court determines if the child has the capacity to live independently, can make sound healthcare decisions, and are they financially independent. If the court determines that the child has the mental acuity and the wisdom to understand the repercussions of their decisions, only then are they granted emancipation, the legal right to make life-changing decisions for themselves without any parent or guardian oversight. Yet, when dealing with dependent, prepubescent teens who are enamored with the idea of peer acceptance and as a result jump on the bandwagon of the newest fad, the trans movement, parents are pushed out of the counseling and decision-making processes simply because the child has said they want to transition. The child wants the cupcake, and you are required to give it to them and smile the whole time, lest you find yourself in jail and saddled with legal fees in an attempt to save your own kid from their own mistake. In essence, the child has a type of pseudo-emancipation, specifically in the area of sex, gender, and transitioning, and this without any parental or court oversight. As I said earlier in this presentation, children are our most precious resource. Parents, by their nature, are the most protective of that resource. So it would stand to reason that if we really cared about a child's well-being, we would allow them to experience all that childhood has to offer, good and bad. We would not saddle them with the responsibility of making healthcare decisions that will have long-term lasting effects well into adulthood. Parents naturally want to see their children happy, and giving them the cupcake would likely do that in the short term. However, we also know that there's a cost to that decision, and that means parents should maintain authority and autonomy to make their children eat their dinner, let their dinner digest, and later, if he or she has the appetite for it, have the cupcake. I would like to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoyed what was presented, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share my channel on your social media. It is appreciated. And as always, have a great day and stay safe out there.